You thought we were done? Oh, baby, it's just getting started. Alright. Well, yeah, I know. I don't want to be making this either, but I really have no other way of doing so. Don't worry, this one's gonna be faster than the hour behemoth that was Chaos Shift, so don't worry. I got you guys. I got you, fam. Either way. Yeah, okay. So, let's get right into the little sticky note of notes I have here. Now then, this won't be as in detailed as my adventure or 1 through 1 SFA or Chaos Shift video. Again, like I said, it'll just be me covering the other points in the timeline that won't show up ever again. So here we go. So then, we have an unnamed 1 through 5. I don't get it either. So, it rips off Sonic 1 through 3, which is still, I mean, yeah, Sonic 1 through 3, where else are you gonna start? Start off with something iconic. And then 4 and 5 is somewhat like Zero Gravity. What I do remember having down is that 4 and 5 had to deal with, like, 4 had these weird tablet things. And I remember I put in, like, the Gigan Rocks from Zero Gravity, specifically, as a stage that happened in that. I don't know why I remember that specifically. Maybe it's the fact that it's my favorite stage in that game, but I don't know. Who knows at this point. But, either way. And the 5th one had something to do with, like, these weird tablets which had inscriptions on it. I think it had something to do with chaos in some way. I can't really say for sure. Again, this has all been buried to the sands of time. Unfortunately. I know you all want strong cringe, and so do I, trust me. But, fortunately, we don't always get what we want. Anyway. Moving on. Polar Caps. Polar Caps happens directly after 1 through 5, and what I have here is Knuckles, Ice, and Eggman. So if I remember correctly, Knuckles ends up finding this weird cave in the middle of just a snowy place. I don't even remember if it was specifically the ice caps. I think it was just an undiscerned snowy location, because why wouldn't it be, right? And when he goes in, finds a weird inscription, decides to have Sonic check it out instead of him, because it's not like he knows the place if it is Ice Cap, so it's clearly not Ice Cap. And that kicks off that, and Eggman just tries to freeze the planet. It's just locate base, stop from global freezing, and then throw the sun on the earth to cool it off or something. I don't know. Anything can happen at this point. Alright. My metal counterpart. Oh boy, this is gonna be a pretty strange one. So, my metal counterpart is the original comic and the original piece of media I put online first, but it's now offline because I removed my DeviantArt account and I removed all traces of that abomination, thank God. But at least as far as I know, someone's probably gonna, like, bring it up, or a close friend or some shit, or I don't know. Either way, my metal counterpart, I'm showing images of it on screen right now. As you can tell, it is quite the dog shit, but, and now you know why I took it offline until now. But it's still integral to the story, and the new version of my metal counterpart, of course, is going to be way different from this. So essentially what happens in this story is that at the end of well, a future event that's still canon to the mainline timeline, Navoy, or 555 as it was back then. Yeah, ignore the color change. I don't get it either anymore. Either way, forces happens. Also something else happens, but I'll leave that for that. And 555 is thrown into Shay's dimension, runs into a metal copy of himself, beats that up, heads to the city, rescues someone, I guess. It's just Crystal. There's nothing special about her since timeline reset before she got to do anything really interesting. Don't worry, I'll intend to fix that in the current timeline. You'll see. But that happens. They try to track down Shay. I always like to believe now that Shay actually owed Crystal money for like some kind of meth or drugs. I don't know. Something like that. Probably took speed. Let's be honest here. But eventually they track it down, find a metal copy of Shay that originated from this dimension. Yeah, fight, and then the whole place decides to blow up with them not sustaining any injuries whatsoever. I mean, they are perfectly clean. There is not a scratch on them. Anyway, run back through the ring because it has a coincidental 24-hour time gap. Meet the old cast, and that's the end of that. It was an absolute train wreck, and a majority of the way it turned out that way is because of I was lazy and wanted to finish it, because there was a dub that was up for a shorter period of time, but I took it down because, of course, why wouldn't I? I don't like preserving stuff, but I love preserving stuff. You guys gotta understand that. But yeah, that happened. Anyway, it's honestly best if it is down. Let's be real here. I don't want you to subject you guys to too much hell. Anyway, after that came the Great War. The greatest of great wars. Also at the time, the series was still heavily inspired by The Murder of Me, and I wanted to expand on like a godlike mythos, something esque to Cthulhu in a way. It was gonna be expansive at some point. I had a lot planned. Another thing I have planned that isn't actually on here is something in the distant future where like ancestors of the main characters trained themselves to defeat whoever the villain was at the time. It was still Mephiles, if I remember correctly, but then again, when is it not? Because he will always be pulling the strings at this. Yes, sorry, spoiler alert, but Mephiles is always gonna be the main villain of this series. Let's just get real here. But anyway, how he still exists will be explained later in the series. You know. Either way, TGW happens because Shay decided to be a dick. Not just kidding. It was Mephiles. What he did is he broke into the house, and instead of murdering people instead of murdering the characters in their sleep, he decided to vore himself into Shay, effectively. Next day, Navoy and Shay were having a knife fight, and then all of a sudden, hey, one got a bit too pokey, and, you know, Shay kind of got ticked off. Navoy was absolutely pummeled because he's a scrub, and captured and tortured for 6 months, because why not? Guess this was inspired off of Forces, if you couldn't tell, but again, we'll get there. After that, Yellow Hedgehog, which at the time was named Maria and still is in that timeline, goes in, almost breaks it out until I got lazy and stopped. But what was planned to happen was like a faction war, a 4-way faction war, which was actually a 3-way. Because, again, Mephiles pulls the strings, but at the time it was thought that Shay was gonna be the main antagonist for that main faction. Mephiles was basically supplying factories, which gave him energy, but also gave Shay energy because of reasons I'll explain later. And, you know, Eggman's always there too. But after that came the Clash of Kingdoms 5.5.5, which was like the Sonic.exe equivalent of our series. SOA, don't remember that. Shay's Dimension, yes. Elemental Swords and Sword of Avalon and Elemental Swords. Events that will be further prescribed later in the series, trust me. Either way, the group go back to Shay's world because why not? Because I wanted to go grab the actual blade. Because the blade Shay uses in TGW is called, well, it's a different blade. But anyway, they go back, they try to find the 4 elements and then elemental swords that make up that blade. Shay already has the hero blade, which is a dull piece of rust, pretty much. So, but the EXE ripoff decides to get in their way, this time with extra spider tentacles and claws, because, again, we'll talk about it later. Anyway, stuff happens, yada yada yada, you know, Mephiles doesn't really interfere, except it was Mephiles the whole time, because, I mean, do I really need to explain this anymore? Anyway, and then after that, that was really it. There was a few other things that was going through my mind just because of the series that I was involved in at the time. Like, it was eventually planned to be something like a mystery dungeon-esque arc with, I don't know, it was weird, man. I was gonna find some way to work it out. It was originally gonna be, if we were still going by seasons, it would go up to season 13 as fully planned out, or it might have even been season 15, which was already past when Mephiles was dead, but except he wasn't actually dead after that. There's gonna be a whole multi-universal collapse, and everything just kind of happens, but you don't really get to see much of anyone else except for the main cast. There was some wild shit, man. There was some absolute banger shit going on in my head when I was taking speed back in the day. I tell you what, man. But all of those events have faded to the sands of time, as sad as it is to say. And Clash of Kingdoms is the final fully realized event in that timeline before it abruptly stops. And we come to the end of what I'd like to dub the Forgotten Timeline. A timeline full of childhood wonder and glee, but ultimately never came to fruition. Well, if the timeline stops here, how does the series begin? Well, for that, a journey needs to begin.